While I hear differing opinions on these matchups, Death Rattle Hunter feels like it's just got 3 pretty decent matchups against the Malagos Druid, Shudderwock Shaman, and the Even Warlock from Justsaiyan.
Yeah, meanwhile the Shudderwock is just going to struggle across the board the way the matchups line up, which is interesting because quite often when you build a lineup, you try and work out what beats myself, like what beats me, and you try to avoid that from happening because other people might bring similar lineups. And certainly Complexity seem to have nailed this one. I know that both teams use statistics heavily in their Complexity. I think Casey's a bit of a monster, I think is the word, when going through that stuff. And at one point, I don't know if they still have it, but Tempo Storm actually employed like some
I remember that
mathematician, genius, professor guy to do all the lineup math for them. But the numbers are only as good as the numbers you put in. So these people sort of having to look at stats and then put their own take on it. And I think Complexity, because Casey's doing fantastically as well, have nailed this event. Into game number 1. Derek, what do you reckon?
We've got the Even Warlock mirror here. Let's take a quick look at the deck list, the tech cards that have been thrown in there, because that can make a big old difference in this matchup. And already, I'm seeing a couple of things that look like they might be helping Justsaiyan in this matchup. The old Sacrificial Pact tech thrown in there can be very, very juicy in this matchup to be eating up the Hooked Reavers or a Dread Infernal as well.
On the other side, Tyler does have the Black Knight.
That's true. That swings things back the other way.
And they both have 1 Spellbreaker, so I still think it's slight advantage to Sack Pact, oddly, although Black Knight makes that massive swing. Yeah. If you play around it, the Sack Pact's much harder to actually do anything about because it has multiple uses, whereas the Black Knight is kind of just saved for those Hooked Reavers, which you speak.
But we see what I believe there was a full mulligan for Justsaiyan and a full mulligan for Tyre, because none of these cards are, as I believe it's referred to as El Gigante.
Indeed.
We have turned
and that makes things really interesting because sometimes, not very often, surprisingly unoften, one player just goes giant, win the game.
Pretty much.
But a lot of the time this ends up as to who can make their 2 and 4 drops on turn 26 be slightly more impactful. And Tyler actually lost a game like this in the Swiss because his Mountain Giant was the bottom card. Yeah. And just to stay alive,
I remember.
He had to use up all of his cards. That may have even been in Oslo now. It's been a lot of tournaments recently. But he had, it was against Sir Salty in Oslo. Yeah. He had to use all of his cards to stay alive and couldn't actually play his second Mountain Giant at all.
Well, it says a lot, doesn't it? Because I remember when the deck was first floating about, it was kind of seen more as a meme because people were posting on Twitter, oh, turn 3 giant, lol.
Yeah, I think shows started doing that. I'm like, this is just not going to last.
And then it turned out it was actually a real deck. But still, the idea of it, the best thing you can do is to get that giant down as quick as possible, which is why Tyler has got off to a pretty nice lead here. The giant and the Twilight Drake. Although he is not on the coin, so he won't be able to get it down on turn 3, Justsaiyan without a giant at all, still most assuredly a disadvantage.
Yeah, he's going to have it to do to actually survive this as well. His removal's not particularly good. His minion base isn't very good. If he does get through all that, he does have Blood Reaver Gul'dan in hand, but not a single demon yet to go with it. And although you don't need a huge number of minions to come back with Gul'dan, but nothing is not the greatest.
Yeah, we're seeing more and more now in Hearthstone. At least in tournament play, I think Gul'dan being saved back a little bit more, because against obviously the aggressive decks, you just throw it down as quick as you can in the old days to get a couple of Void Lords out of it as well in the Q blocks. But now the extra wave of minion that's generated through Hooked Reavers and Dread Infernals is thought of as being pretty important in quite a lot of the matchups.
Yeah, and Saiyan might not even get there. Not only has Tyler, I'm just looking, one of the ways you can defend is to get that Hooked Reaver down because you're taking a beating, but he does have the Black Knight in hand, which after this next couple of turns is going to be a big deal.
And Tyler here clearly taking a while because he's going to be mapping out the next few turns. How much is he going to tap? And therefore, does he need to just throw away one of these Defiles before he found the Sunfield Protector? Just to make room in his hand, because turn 4 is obviously spoken for with Mountain Giant, but maybe he wants to go tap Giant and then tap Twilight Drake. His hand could get pretty full. So I love the consideration from him there to maybe just throw away one of these cards to no effect.
Yeah, we do see Defile often played. Another option he had there was to play Sun Fury and then play Twilight Drake and then play Giant, because he didn't have the mana to play on turn 4. So he felt like he was just going to open with Twilight Drake, which I don't see why you would in this matchup, really.
Well, no, he would have had the mana to go Mountain Giant next turn, still.
Oh, he would, yeah.
Yeah, because it goes up to 5 down to 4 again. I think I would have preferred, if he was going to play any 2-drop there, Defile over Sun Fury, because I feel like Sun Fury can be pretty good in a matchup where you want to be going base a lot more and forcing your opponent to trade. That does just mean you can protect your own health total with a Sun Fury on a Giant or a Twilight Drake and push everything else through to face.
Another option he now has for next turn is to Mounted Giant and do exactly that, protect that Twilight Drake. He
Very
can do
true.
exactly that, and would have been on his mind, because obviously throwing away Defile would have cost him the card, so this play wouldn't be possible on turn 5 coming up. Because he doesn't know Saiyan's hand is like a bag of spanners right now. He's obviously planning for the worst, not the best.
Well, he can guess it's not great.
Yeah, he's going to know in a moment, right?
Well, he knows there's no Giant in hand, because there's no world in which Saiyan goes tap tap and then doesn't play Giant on 3 with the coin. And I'm just trying to think how much that influenced Tyler's choice to go Mountain Giant second after the Twilight Drake. We're seeing that more and more in Hearthstone. The Twilight Drake first. The fact that it has enough health to survive a hit from Giant is one of the main reasons why we see it a little bit earlier. But man, oh man, is this a very nice looking hand for Tyler.
Because one of the ways you have to kill the Giant most of the time, outside of weird combinations, is to hit him with some smaller minions first.
Yeah.
And if Tyler can just protect this Giant and Saiyan can't touch it with the minions and no Spellbreaker to get through the Twilight Drake, this is going to be really difficult for Saiyan to deal with. And the fact there's a second one is just going to be insane. There's no real good AoE for the mirror, at least.
I mean, there are just no good cards for Saiyan to play here. He has just got none of the cards you want in this matchup. Absolutely none of them.
If this was anybody else, I'd be saying this is kind of over. We've done that with Saiyan way too many times. Even when he actually finally lost in Oslo, he still had this final sting in the tail where he got like double naturalized and lobbed out a Lich King and looked like he might stabilize as he was going down the last game. So
this is a weird matchup, I find, though, where it feels like it's all very discrete numbers. Like the fact that it's always 4 4s and 8 8s, you can usually figure out pretty early on, just through simple trades, who's going to be by miles in the lead. And I think we can all see here, Tyler looks like he's pretty far in the lead. Maybe Hooked Reaver in the next couple turns could start to pull Saiyan back now that he's below the 15 health threshold.
Just want to highlight what Saiyan did last turn. He played the Hellfire.
Yeah.
Not just to do the 3 damage, because he didn't do a whole lot, but it did boost his Spellstone to 5, which means he could kill the Giant over 2 turns.
Okay.
And then if your opponent's got a second Giant, you raise your eyebrows and shrug, which is exactly what happened. Did find a way to kill it over the 2 turns, but obviously the second Giant has just made this ridiculous. And Tyler's hand means that that Saiyan has just no answer. Even if Saiyan had an answer, the Spellbreaker, the Black Knight are just going to sort it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's either Spellstone Defile or Spellstone Ooze, depending on how much damage Saiyan thinks he can take. Obviously, if they have Hellfire, it's pretty much just over anyway. This does protect you against the 1 copy of Hellfire for a turn. But his response next turn is going to have to be so devastatingly powerful.
And Tyler has got the Shroom Brewer now, so he can put the Giant back up to 8 if he so desires. If he thinks there's no way Saiyan can do 8 in 1 turn, and we've just seen Saiyan kill the first one over 2 turns, it doesn't seem like there's much response to this. That's easy for us to say. Tyler's sitting there currently thinking about every single card in the deck.
And you were saying about those games where one player draws 2 Mountain Giants and kind of just wins?
Yeah.
Yeah, this has, quite sadly for Justsaiyan, simply been one of those games. This is kind of, in my opinion, what Even Warlock is trying to avoid. Is the idea is you never get these inconsistent hands because you draw so many cards at the start of the game that you always get the cards you want. It's an absurd chance to find at least 1 Mountain Giant in your starting hand. But for Saiyan, this sadly just was not his game.
Like that last turn from Tyler, just shows he's on point this morning and sharp, just playing the Defile before the healing. All the obvious little mechanics that it's not a great play or anything, just shows that he's wide awake and thinking clearly. I like to see that.
As well, I mean, yeah, before the tap came in, Justsaiyan could have survived with just Spellstone on the 4/4, but we can clearly see he realizes there is just no way back in for that game, and Saiyan is definitely one of the players to, as soon as he realizes there's no way back in, he won't fight it out to the end.
This is the one I won in Oslo. When did you last go home, sir? Oh, I've only been to 3 different countries.
As we are going to see from Tyler, saving the best till last, it seems, in the Death Rattle Hunter. He's going to be going with the Malagos Druid instead, up against the Shudderwock Shaman. And this is, for me, a very, very interesting matchup, because before the Boomsday project, I felt it was pretty close to 50-50, actually. There was a lot of counterplay on both sides. With the Druid, you could obviously go off to your own combo a little bit quicker. You could try and burn combo pieces with Naturalize. But then for the Shudderwock Shaman, you had Healing Rain to fight back against the burst damage. You had Weapon Removal to destroy the Twig. I felt like there was a lot of play on both sides.
Yeah, it used to just be, I Alex you, I heal, now you play Hearthstone.
Yes. But now I feel like it's probably a little bit more swing towards the Druid side, because Weapon Removal doesn't deal with their burst combo, because they still have Dream Petal, Florist, and Forbiddeness Flute. And when they get a hand like this as well...
Yeah, I saw the smile creep across your face while you were talking about all that, because this hand... I mean, the second Nourish is just going to be used as... Even if he doesn't draw UI, he's just going to be able to card draw with the second Nourish.
I mean, if he does get UI, this is the absolute dream hand. Even this here, like... Wild Growth, Coin Nourish leads you up to 7, so it's not perfect.
Oh no, you have to wait till turn 4 for your Lich King or something.
God forbid.
But yeah, obviously it's not perfect, and laughing a bit, there's no real answers for saying, but he does have combo pieces and a lot of them, which at least gives him a game plan of some sort.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's far from the premier option of the Mana Tide Totem, which he'd really love to develop on this turn. Potentially, he could get it off of the Farsight here. But it's a good way to get the draw going. The Chain Gang and the Life Drink, it means potentially all he needs is a Grumble, and we could just see the combo coming down on turn 9, which is one of the key ways that you can start to pull this back. And there I was saying that Tyler might not have a strong turn 7 play. His face says it all. He knows he has the absolute stone cold nuts.
I like the keep of the Tar Creeper from Saiyan, by the way, even though it's 0 cost.
Yeah.
For 2 reasons. First of all, it just doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like you're not winning the game by hitting your opponent for 1 a couple of times.
I agree.
And secondly, it gives Tyler a lot more to play around. He
How
knows
do you
it. Well, there's a reduced cost card in hand, so that could be a Healing Rain, that could be anything. And just might make Tyler, in circumstances where he doesn't have this exact hand, have to do a double take as to all the options Saiyan has available.
Good point. Good point.
But now, of course, Saiyan is able to mount some sort of actual offensive, and he didn't see anything weird happen on turn 6, like a Spreading Plague or anything. Now he's a little bit more likely to do this.
Yeah, and if he was to see Spreading Plague here, I think he'd say, yeah, it's not that bad. I've got Lightning Storm, I can still fight back against it. Tyler here making the brave play of Spiders. I'm starting to see the thinking of players as I play more Malagos Druid, and you should just go for it more often than you think.
Yeah.
Because even if they do have the quote-unquote answer like Lightning Storm, as Justsaiyan had here, they still have to spend the mana on it, which they probably just don't want to do.
Yeah, I think Muzzy's original meme was, even when it's wrong, you should do it anyway, just to prove a point.
Exactly. It's about sending a message.
Something that Tyler pointed out to me last night, which I hadn't actually spotted, but all 3 regional leaders, the last 4 leaders, are in this top 16. Because he's leading APAC, Saiyan's leading Americas, and Hunter Ace is leading Europe.
Is Tyler number 1 now? Is he
he's number 1. He says he's number 1. I thought he was second, but he says he's number 1. And the players tend to know better what's going on than we do. I know Hunter Ace is out the back there, just making sure he knows exactly how far ahead of Psycho he is, because it's alright for us to say Hunter Ace has got it locked up, but if you're Hunter Ace, you see all the possibilities that could lead you to not winning it, so he's just locking that up in his mind as well. And of course the world champion's here too, so the 3 champions elect plus the current world champion all battling it out here.
You make it sound like Lord of the Rings or something.
It's Lord of the Hearthstone. I don't know, I can't make that good. Masters
Lord of the Arena?
Okay, sure.
We'll go with that.
That's kind of bad though.
It's not perfect. It was off the cuff. As Saiyan now is getting more and more of those combo pieces rolling with the very nice play we see in a lot of the control matchups, actually, of Electra into the Farsight. I like this a lot because there is some consideration, I think, to save Electra to go with Healing Rain, but I just find so often in this matchup, when you actually have the time to go for Healing Rain, it's when you're about this health total, between the 10 and 15 range, at which point double Healing Rain isn't even that much better than single healing rain. So the extra card draw here is pretty nice for Justsaiyan.
Say his eyebrow raises. Because he's such a calm character, like 99% of the time.
Yeah.
And so he just says it all with his eyebrows at times. Like, okay, you've got quite a good hand, Tyler. Well done, sir.
Yeah, I'll agree with that one. This is, apart from a UI, just perfect for Tyler.
Saiyan must be quite excited about the hand he had himself until this druid thing happened to him.
Because, I mean, if Tyler draws Malagos next turn, he might be a little bit afraid to throw it out. Even then, like, even if there's Hex, he's still got Fluke. If Malagos comes in the next few cards for Tyler, this game is just over and he's won, I think.
So Saiyan's got to play as if he can beat some of these hands.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, he is just getting ready for the very early Shuttle Walk, I feel. One thing that's led to him, one of the many things that led to him being such a great player is his identification of when bad things are happening. But this one's quite easy, because bad things have happened since turn 2 onwards, every turn. But he won't hesitate to go for an alternate win condition if he feels that the primary win condition is just not going to happen for him.
And Tyler's going very aggressive here. I was trying to count up lethal at the same time. And I think with the Naturalize as well, that is actually just going to be just enough damage to get a turn 10 victory here for Tyler. We said that this was pretty much just the nuts, and to be honest, it turns out we did not lie. Perfect damage here for Tyler to take things up 2-0 up. And Justsaiyan, the man of the hour for Hearthstone at the moment, is 0-2 down and potentially about to be eliminated in the top 16.
Yeah, you're saying it's important for that Shaman to not have to run into, well, for the Hunter to get through, but now the Druid's through anyway. Yeah. Not only is Saiyan got to 3-0, but he's got to find a win with his Shuttle Walk as well. This Hunter is lining up pretty well for Tyler. It's not over by any means. I mean, it's not...
He's been playing Odd Rogue in most of his tournaments for a while now, and he needs that practice. So Tyler banning that away from him here. For Justsaiyan, I imagine he'd like to have the practice of playing Quest Rogue against someone that he could be playing against in the full championships.
Yeah, it would be amazing if we get a rematch there, and obviously whoever wins this one will go into that with a bit of swag. So we see swag and YOLO all over the buildings here, so I've gone back in time to 2014 somehow.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, Saiyan has been boosting himself to probably one of the best Odd Rogue players in the world, with his own unique way of playing. You wouldn't think you could play Odd Rogue in a unique style, but he seems to have one.
He does indeed, a little bit slower than I think a lot of players would go for it, which, I mean, it's working out for him. It's definitely different than I would be playing it, which probably means he's doing something right.
With the match in hand, though, the Hunter looking for those fast starts. Very difficult if they start making big minions for Volcano to do its thing, so we'll be looking at the number 15 a lot. If you've got one egg and a couple of 5/5s to back it up, and then the Volcano can't really clear the board, you can just keep hitting them, is what you're looking for in the perfect world.
Yeah, I think this playdead for Tyler is a somewhat sad but somewhat necessary pick off the tracking, because I totally agree with you. If you can get something like pretty much exactly Witchwood Grizzly onto the board, start cubing that and playdeading it, that's when none of the Shaman's removal pretty much does anything. Volcano, Lightning Storm, even a Hex on the cube, it's not enough to remove all the damage. So I think he would have loved to have gone for that there, but when you have two Devil Saw eggs in hand, no playdeads or any Death Rattle activators of any kind, I think you have to get the ball rolling a little bit quicker than Witchwood Grizzly would allow you to do.
Another reason that Hunter can do well here is that, is that the Healing Rain just buys you a turn when they get rolling.
Yeah.
If they're mashing you with these massive minions, then suddenly your Healing Rain is a lot less effective than against most decks.
A somewhat interesting build of the deck here for Tyler. He, I think, is omitting the high main in this list to go for a 3-beast version of the deck rather than the more traditional 4-beast version of the deck, if I'm reading that correctly. Which is not the most common version. I'm used to seeing Savannah high mains, obviously. I'm seeing more and more charged Devil Saws popping back up again.
Yeah, that's really strange how that just vanished and then came back. And I still feel that this deck is not optimized, even though we see the same builds over and over again. It never feels perfectly smooth to me. It's sort of got two different themes that are trying to gel together and don't quite manage it.
But for Tyler, his Beast Light version of the deck will, now we will be seeing a direct effect of that if he is unable to, if he finds Katharina, because that will only summon King Crush, I believe, off the battle cry and get nothing off the death rattle. Still, I think having said that, he really won't be too sad about having the Witchwood Grizzly here, because being able to go, even if it's not necessarily on this turn, but at some point, Witchwood Grizzly into next turn Cube Play Dead is just one of the most devastating combos he can pull off and will put him miles into the lead.
Tyler's got to look at a wealth of options here. He would love to cube this egg now and just go in on this Tar Creeper, but then he's scared of Hex, doesn't want to mess that up, so just making sure he knows all the options in his head, and Flanking Strike is the natural play.
Yeah, I think I like being a little bit more optimistic with Cube. If this Houndmaster Shore survives, you don't even have to go for the Witchwood Grizzly. You can just cube and play dead that Houndmaster Shore, give rush to your cube, and the shores will give rush to each other. It gets a little bit disgusting pretty quickly.
And pretty quickly has arrived right now. And Tyler just has to make those decisions.
The world's worst version of the future is now.
Yeah, pretty quickly is now. You have to say it fast, otherwise you miss it. He's just going to not hurry here.
So counting up the amount of health on board, this does leave Tyler a little bit vulnerable to, or actually quite vulnerable to a Volcano on this turn. The fact that he didn't go for Cube.
But his backup plan then... Actually, yeah, his backup plan
is decent, but it's not insane. Whereas if we'd seen Cube and Play Dead on that turn, he would have left himself more vulnerable to Mind Control tech, obviously, of which Justsaiyan is running 2. So that's probably a fairly big reason why he held back here on the Cube and Play Dead. Also because the potential upside, if there isn't a Volcano in hand, is huge, because he goes Cube Play Dead on the Grizzly, and then even if there is a Mind Control tech, he'll probably be so far ahead on board that it won't make any difference.
Yeah, the Cube play does look like it was much more resilient there.
Yeah. And that 0-2 egg is just proving very annoying for Tyler because of exactly Mind Control tech, which he will be expecting to come down at any point. But there's Justsaiyan is letting rip to the Volcano. This is definitely the punish for Tyler's play, in that he has no fodder left to stick the cube on.
Yeah, and now he's just sitting here with this not fantastic looking turn, but not disastrous. But he's not even going to mess around with the cube here on the eggs. He's just going to go full in on the 5/5 next turn. So this was obviously his plan. Well, to draw Flanking Strike. Yeah, obviously he had a better plan with the cube anyway, but he's got away with that, I think.
Like, I imagine if he hadn't drawn the Flanking Strike, we could have seen Play Dead on the egg and then Cube on the egg as well. That would have left him with 3 minions, so he's not so vulnerable to the Mind Control tech, and gives him a little bit of resilience on board. But now, with Deathstalker Rexar able to come down in the next turn or two, he has a lot of ways here to keep that pressure going. He will be under absolutely no fear at all of running out of stuff to do.
Yeah, Rexar, exactly the right time for it. He's been in no hurry with his hand to get Rexar going. These 5/5s are going to get the work done anyway, but if you've got a Rexar at hand, one of the reasons that Hunter is struggling, he's not struggling, it's pretty set, but did struggle to find the best build, because you go, okay, Rexar, what's my other 29?
And Tyler here is showing just how afraid he is of Mind Control tech, and I think demonstrating why a lot of players are calling for it to be rotated to the Hall of Fame due to how powerful it is, by just sacrificing a 3/3 on that previous turn to make sure there were only 3 minions on the board, rather than 4, missing 3 damage through to face, but feeling, you know what, it's worth it, because if he does steal the cube here, he is miles behind on board.
Yeah, Zalay tweeted out something like 5 MC techs or something in one turn earlier. It's like, maybe it's time.
Yeah. Finally saying,
don't mind this.
Enough is enough, because he has so much damage on board. I think this is the point where Tyler is starting to realize, even if he does have it, I just have lethal on board available next turn. He needs something in addition to it.
Well, we're going to find out, because he does have a whole bunch of stuff here. If he can get the cube here, things might change in a hurry. Yeah, that cube goes over the other side, then he's just got ways of clearing the board. Things would have got pretty terrifying for Tyler really quickly. And we should keep an eye on Saiyan's hand, because Tyler has had Another fantastic start. We've been talking about that a lot, but Saiyan has played his life drink, he's played the chain gangs. He has got Grumble, he has got Shudderwock. We need to just pay attention to that just in case.
That's a good point. He just needs to stem the tide of, stem the bleeding for a couple of turns now, and he will be able to pull this one back. Ooh, Hunting Mastiff if... no, it was Arthas that was taken on the first pick, so no ability to chew through those chain gangs with the rush attack and then push all the other damage to face, because Tyler wants to be playing aggressive now. I think he's realizing that while Justsaiyan's hand could be pretty miserable, the way he's playing it definitely indicates that he's moving towards a combo.
I mean, he beats a miserable hand anyway, so from where Tyler's sat, he's like, okay, how do I beat this if Saiyan has the good hand? Saiyan certainly does have that.
For Tyler here ending up with the absolute maximum amount of stats on board as possible, even going so far as to break his queue.
That was really crucial because Saiyan has double Lightning Storm in hand. That would have been a guaranteed board clear. But now, even though it's quite likely to do a lot of damage, it's just nowhere near as appealing as it was.
And it's a big turn here for Saiyan. If he goes for Grumble Shard on this turn, that would be 14 damage left on board. He basically never dies from that.
Yeah, or he could go Storm Shard, and then next turn just Grumble if anything's around, and then Shudderwock. That's a turn slower, but maybe a turn slower where he's alive for a considerably longer time. I
think that's probably the way he goes, because he can even fit in a hero power first and see if he gets the spell damage token as well. But in the end, he's just
going
his
MC
with
tech.
The Shudderwock. This is not even a player I was considering.
Yeah, he's not sure himself. He's actually changed his mind here. But Mind Control Tech was a thing in the Shudderwock, so that was why it was so tempting to him. Yeah, even had a Glacial Shard in there, would have got the Chain Gangs to put it back. But I think he's probably afraid of Poisonous Bloatbat, which would pretty much lock him out of the game. Or Spider Bomb stuff, which could have killed off all his Shudderwocks. He's frozen the 5-3, not the 5-5, because this gives him a chance next turn to use those Lightning Storms more effectively. This is a massive turn for Tyler, but next turn could well be a massive, massive turn for Saiyan. There's a lot in that Shudderwock. Life Drink is in there. I think both Chain Gangs are in there. There's 2 shards, there's a Mind Control Tech.
Yeah, there's some real good stuff there. And Tyler has to be suspecting that. Will he be bringing his board down to less than 3 minions? Does he ever win there? Like, if Shudderwock is in hand, he needs to just accept he's probably not winning this game anyway, so let's kill off the Grumble and push as much damage face as possible. Or maybe even just ignore the Grumble and say, if you have Shudderwock, I'm losing anyway. It's a real tough turn.
Okay, are we both just sitting here waiting to see what happens next turn, really? This turn's not straightforward as such, but nothing terrible or good is going to happen particularly to Tyler here.
Yeah, I like sending this last hit phase, because if they play Shudderwock and it fails and they bounce back a shard to the hand, I think that's a pretty unlikely scenario to happen, because you don't even know if the Shudderwock is there.
So there is the second Chain Gang.
But the first one was Zolid, so he has 2 Chain Gangs in
he did have 2 in there, okay. Yeah. My notes are actually right for once.
And here it is. Pretty nice, easy play here for Saiyan. Yeah. I was going to say that we could have seen a trade-in with the Glacial Shard first into the Spider Bomb to get a more reliable steal with the Mind Control Tech, but I guess this is a play around just in case the Shudderwock fails. We can clearly see, though, Shudderwock went in the right order, which is exactly what Saiyan needed to happen, and this now pretty much guarantees, I think, that he should be able to close out this game.
Yeah, the play around being that the Glacial Shard's going back to hand. Tyler gives it up, and Saiyan was on the verge again, and the guys, even the people who beat him, have been so hard to put away, and he's going to have to do it the hard way, Tyler.
And I think what this comes down to here for Tyler, the real key decision for me in this game was whether Ro16ing or even further a tour stop. It's more just making sure that there's no rustiness in their play. They are well up to date with their deck strategy, their lineup, pick and ban, just making sure that they're comfortable as well under the limelight of the camera in these tournaments.
And under a situation where it matters, like you say, under the limelight, because it's all. I mean, Saiyan can play with Muzzy all day, every day if he wants to, and Muzzy will play well. But you will always play that little bit more carefully when you're in this big event playing for a lot of points, a lot of money. And these points are massively important. I mean, we talk about how they're the leaders, but I don't think either of them have got it anywhere near locked up yet. So a 15 points for first prize here, plus their champs points, will help them pull out a big lead on the field.
As Saiyan now has, he's... Let me stop saying that. I was going to say he's been eating a certain brand of breakfast cereal, but I think I got told off for that once. Basically, he's found his mounted giant here.
I told you off, but I don't think you needed to.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, but he has, and it's charged him up.
It has charged him up very good and proper, as Tyler now is presented with a pretty tough choice here. Keleseth against, I was going to say against any controllish deck. Against any deck is obviously the primo way to make sure your trades work out favorably, your minions aren't removed by any of their removal cards. We are going to see the non-Deathstalker Rexar pick here for Tyler. Do you agree with this play? Do you think that you have time to go for Rexar often?
I mean, my instinct is you do, especially with Spider Bomb and Ziliax in your hand. My feeling is you do get there, but
it's Keleseth
is still good. I mean, Keleseth I don't think is the #1 card in this deck. There's a few decks now where it's not actually the #1 mulligan card, and I think this is one of those decks. But it's still good, especially your eggs attacking into giants and stuff is a thing you can do.
Would you put egg higher then?
I think egg is higher. I can't remember exactly, but I seem to remember Keleseth wasn't top. Same with Shudderwalk. Keleseth's like the 5th best card, but it's still the 5th best card.
Well, it makes sense when you're comparing it to a deck like Zoo, which runs, what, 4 spells in the whole deck, and this deck runs quite a few spells in there. It makes a good amount of sense that Keleseth, its overall incredible dominance will be going down a little bit.
It's very interesting to see how it works out, and I'm sure that Tyler will know the numbers better than I do.
Justsaiyan going with that mounted giant on turn 4, though. This is working out pretty respectably for him so far, even with the Hunter's Mark being picked up here for Tyler. Doesn't have the perfect way to be dealing with it right now. So just going to be setting up the Spider Bomb to try and fight back against this ball. So what can Saiyan do about this?
What he can do about it is accept
it,
or...
Yeah. This is the problem with even Warlock. Any deck that relies on single big minions will always be weak to Spider Bomb, because are you going to silence it? Even if he could, he might choose to pass up on that option.
And Saiyan is just going to try and give himself a chance to make it difficult for Tyler, but basically this is just get the damage in. He's tapping away trying to get down to those hooked Reavers, and hope your opponent hasn't got the hand that Tyler has.
Well played.
He said well played, trades in, tries to get the 2 in 3, and
Saiyan smelled that coming from a mile away.
That's the most emotion I've ever seen Saiyan show whilst at the table. Like, realised it was a huge moment for this pair.
I mean, what are you going to do? It happens sometimes. We can see as well for Tyler, even if it had gone on to the 66% chance to hit one of the other minions, Hunter's Mark into Flanking Strike or Ziliax for a little bit of extra damage with the Ooze would have been able to clear it up. So it was potentially seems more impactful than it could for Justsaiyan, but you have to imagine that's going to be stinging.
It is, and it was nice play because he took the matters into his own hands. He knows that the other way around, anything else he does, Tyler can make sure that the giant is hit. So Saiyan realised the 8 immediate damage just wasn't going to be enough, even in the long run, to get it done. So took it into his own hands, gave himself that chance, and when he checks afterwards, when he talks to Tyler after the game, he will realise that there was nothing that was going to work for him anyway.
But while it may seem at the moment like this game is looking very even, I get the suspicion that Justsaiyan is going to have to start pulling ahead on the board pretty quickly, lest the power cards from Tyler come into play, which I'm pretty much talking about Katharina mostly. If that comes down on turn 7, you just get an actual good idea of how absurdly powerful Katharina is, how far they push the stats and the ability on that minion. When you include only these big beasts in your deck, it's just absolutely disgusting.
Yep, and Tyler's managed to not draw any of those beasts because he is playing that light version, so The King Crush is going to need to get it done though, because with double hooked Reaver, Sunfury Protector to make things safe as well, he's going to have time to get to his Gul'dan.
Yeah.
And saying he's going to be able to have a chance of taking over the game with Gul'dan. It's okay saying Katharina has first go at that, and she's going to do a lot of damage and quite probably win the game. But if Saiyan can limp away and get to Blood Reaver Gul'dan, maybe picking up a couple of taunts along the way, maybe he can still get into this.
He very possibly could, because Tyler, I imagine, is going to have to start moving towards lowering the health total. We can clearly see, however, he's choosing not to do that for the moment, trading into the Beetle to get the armor in play, going with Ziliax here instead of Devil's Egg and Play Dead and pushing face.
And there's the homunculus I was talking about a moment ago. If you get these down, it's not so much the short term, but it's the fact he gets to protect a fairly big board when he plays Gul'dan. He'll get back an Infernal, he'll get back 2 Reavers most likely, and he may be able to stop himself from dying on that turn, assuming he's not already dead by then, because Tyler's hand is insane.
Tyler's hand is insane, but just saying, I said he had to start pulling ahead, stabilizing the board as quick as possible. He's doing that pretty well here. He's got a big old play onto the board, as Tyler looked like he was about to go Mossy Horror.
Yeah, this pick of the Grizzly has not panicked him, but it's just forced his hand into playing Katharina a little bit early. Again, he's not playing many beasts. If he picked up King Crush next turn, things would start to go wrong.
I really like going for Katharina here. I think even though he can stop the 9 damage with the Vulgar Homunculus, Mossy Horror was just so much less powerful than what Katharina pushes on this board. What does Justsaiyan do about this now?
Well,
Double hooked Reaver?
Yeah, but double hooked Reaver looks alright, especially with Lich King in the bank for next turn.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I think you work backwards from turn 10. Turn 10, in the perfect world, you want to play Gul'dan, get that 5 armor and start gaining your health back. And working backwards from there, you really need to get these Reavers played before that. They also stop you from dying.
Double Defile on this turn, even with the Sun Fury, just doesn't do anything.
And Tyler does still have, the thing we often overlook, because it's not often there, is the Hunter hero power. He's chipping away for 2 a turn on top of everything else.
Yeah. Double Defile with a Hook Reaver, or Double Defile at all actually, it doesn't do nothing because you can then trade your Drake into the King Crush, I suppose, which is worth thinking about.
And he's going to go that line.
Wow, that's what he's going for, it looks like.
Feels that he can then double Reaver or Reaver the turn after. It looks nice when you see it in action.
Okay. So it was either this or you play double hooked Reaver and then your Twilight Drake survives, but another one of your hooked Reavers die. I guess this makes sense because your follow-up on the next turn is more powerful, and Saiyan doesn't want to be using these hooked Reavers just as roadblocks, just to stall damage away from the face. He wants to be using them to actually win the game. He needs to mount some kind of an aggression here in the next few turns.
And with Katharina and Crush dealt with, that is the crux of the deck dealt with. Now he's got to still deal with the obligatory 5/5s and absolute nightmares that come with that. But that's one major problem eliminated. That's what Saiyan does, or what the top players all do. They eliminate the major problems when they're behind and just try and find a way to deal with the next one, or hope it isn't there. But unfortunately for Saiyan, this next problem is also there.
And so Hooked Reaver into the Shroomber here does keep Justsaiyan alive for the moment, as there's only 7 damage I think that can go face here. Not many draws that will be giving Tyler lethal quite yet.
That will get him probably to the Gul'dan. There is a Homunculus in there, there's an Infernal in there. And Tyler might have to demonstrate Egg and Mossy Horror here to make this massive board.
I mean, I don't think you hate that as Tyler. You have a position where you've locked them out from Gul'dan, which is really the main thing. Because if they do go for that, I think you just have way too much damage on board for them to ever be surviving.
Yeah, there's just the one. Oh
no, I think there's 2 Homunculuses.
2 Homunculuses plus this Sack Pact will put Saiyan up to effectively 20.
I mean, just the 2 Homunculuses would keep him alive on board at 1 HP, I think.
Well, that's nice. What could go wrong?
Well, not much. There's very little burst in this deck from Tyler. But in the end, he's thinking, I just got to set up a taunt wall. And Tyler's plan has worked. Blood Reaver Gul'dan doesn't come down because Saiyan just doesn't feel comfortable going for it. He needs to preserve this fight back against the board. And Doom Pact could be the way that he does it. But the cube from Tyler, if he was to cube one of these minions, is the play around Doom Pact, and he'll definitely be considering it.
Yeah, this is where we find out how Tyler's coping under pressure, going through all those cards, because sometimes you just like hope the Lich King card isn't. You know, if you're on ladder and you're playing a lot of games in a day, you just play and sort of don't play around the Lich King cards. But in these high pressure situations with a lot on the line, you've got to go through all the Lich King cards in your head and see which ones mess you up and which ones don't.
Oh, he's just 1 damage off lethal anyway, though. I wasn't even counting it up because I just assumed Saiyan's play with all this taunt would be leaving him nice and healthy.
No, it's not nice and healthy.
So close to just dying already.
This also gives him a very good cooldown, the way Saiyan played this, because he should have possibly something on board and less to worry about. Oh my.
Yeah,
That is
lovely play from
perfect.
Tyler. 1 damage off dying. Doom Pact here does not save him. Even Doom Pact Spellstone does not quite get the job done.
Cooldown does if there's double homunculus, especially with Sack Pact in hand.
Okay.
So he can gain up to 11.
Yeah.
And Tyler is out of cards, and Saiyan does have quite a lot of minions in there.
It's
I'm
so
doing that
close.
thing that I do,
Yeah.
but
If he hadn't upgraded Spellstone, he could go trade Spellstone the cube and then go for the Doom Pact. But here, Saiyan is just realizing I have to go for it. He's so close to dying, has so little protecting him here.
but he's also so close to stabilizing.
Yeah.
Tyler is out of stuff, and Saiyan will gain 3 per turn, controlling the board as he goes.
Tyler's face doesn't look all too happy here. He knows how close he was to taking it, how close he is to lethal still on this board. It's not over either way.
Wow.
Just one last final giant offensive here for Tyler. An army of beasts and Neutrons and cubes and oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness, indeed, but Saiyan still has those options he picked up over the last few turns. This cube is pretty naughty right now.
Yeah.
Without the cube, I think Tyler would just be done.
Bloody
Well, even if
decisions.
Saiyan wanted to go for Doom Pact, he only has 10 cards left in the deck. He can't just play it like crazy and hope that it clears everything up because he'll just start fatiguing.
He'd be alright.
Nah,
Maybe he wouldn't, actually. So Mossy Horror here does allow him to get into a position where he can do some good trading.
Yeah, that's true. It's not bad.
And again, commence the process, even though he loses most of his board, of gaining health, controlling the board. He is ahead on board. It's still a bit precarious, but it's just starting to look like he might escape yet again.
This has been so devastatingly close for Tyler. I believe that's 5/5s inside the,
Yeah, I think
the
so.
cube, which is yet more minions that he can start pushing for a very large amount of damage with. But it has to go face. He has to close out this game right now.
This is definitely his last chance. Can Saiyan get rid of enough of this to make the Doom Pact functional? There's no cube anymore, so Doom Pact's a lot more tempting.
Double Hellfire brings him down to 4, back up to 7, back up to 10. He gets to the same L total he was at the start with the all of the minion attacks that he has.
And he's got the board! I never thought I'd be saying that in this game of Hearthstone.
It's so close to just having a game 1 as well here for Saiyan, because Tyler has to make some kind of a board to just stop these hero powers coming from face.
Yeah, he's just going to die soon.
Yeah.
His hero power cannot win this race. His minions are still sort of haymakers, but
The Spellstone here as well. Just
Yeah.
Saiyan doesn't even think about it. This is all going towards the face.
this is starting to remind me of that Montreal final against Fino, where Fino just kept thinking he was going to win, and Saiyan kept finding ways to get it done.
One final chance here for Tyler. I don't think any of those cards are going to do it. And while we were saying that the Death Rattle Hunter would be Tyler's most likely deck to take a victory, it's now 0-2 after both of his other decks took a very swift victory. And it comes down now to just Malagos Druid up against that Death Rattle Hunter. It could be 0-3'd here.
And there's a wild growth, so that's a decent looking start. Reminder, these guys might play it again for a chance at the World Championships next week. That'll be on Play Hearthstone, the champs. And they'll be going straight there from here, a couple of days rest, and then on with the show. And Hunter Ace is waiting backstage for his match.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're hyping up this, but Hunter Ace is still back there.
Interesting keep of the Malfurion there for saying it's... when you have a wild growth, like Malfurion is good in any of the matchups, well, pretty much all of the matchups. There's some where you have to be doing a little bit more specific stuff, like looking for, I don't know, Swipe or Plague against Token Druid or Odd Paladin. But in this matchup, he feels like there shouldn't be too much pressure. The spiders that come off of Malfurion can be very important as well.
Must remember that last game, Tyler kept Keleseth off the tracking on turn 1 instead of Rexar.
That's true.
We don't know how much extra damage he got through because of that Keleseth, but he did run out of stuff because he hadn't got a Rexar, so
that's true.
A decision point that he can reflect upon.
Yeah, maybe.
Probably after the match.
He got so much nice buff out of it.
He
though,
got
like
a lot of extra
the
damage out of it.
cubes,
He got a lot of extra damage out of it.
And I think he realized that's how he won the game, and he was very close to for that plan of working, of getting the damage through to face.
Yeah, I think it looked like it was the correct decision. It's just definitely a point to look back on as they go through the opening stages of this, and now the game kicks into gear. And Saiyan lost that giant roll against the Spider Bomb in that game as well.
He did. He did. That's
didn't
true.
help. We know he's going to be dealt with, but it certainly didn't help matters.
Yeah, Saiyan is really close to having the hand you want here. If he could find a Nourish, or a Twig, or a Dream Petal Flourish, this hand would be looking gorgeous.
But a miss is as good as a mile, as they say.
Yeah. And this does make the Malfurion keep a little bit more interesting, because I do just find in this matchup that the key cards you're looking for are some way to get an abuse the Malagos effect, be it through Twig or Dream Petal early on. I suppose you wouldn't keep Dream Petal off the mulligan, so I don't know. You just want Nourish. Like I'm pretty traditionalist with my Malagos Druid keeps. I just like finding
Oddly
the
enough,
good cards.
You like to have the good cards and have a lot more mana than your opponent.
Yeah, that does tend to help. Because now the damage from Tyler is starting to mount up surprisingly quickly here.
Yeah, and electing not to worry about Plague to some extent there. There's definitely ways he could have kept narrow, but just, nah. I'm the Hunter, I'm going to keep the pressure on. Plenty of things in hand to deal with it.
Saiyan again presented with the question of which option do I choose? They are both weak to Mossy Horror, which he's not too sad about because he has the Spreading Plague. But because of the fact that spiders are so weak to Deathstalker Rexar, I think that's actually a double reason to go for it here, because if you go for the Scarabs and he had Mossy and Rexar, he'd pretty much have to go for Mossy there. Maybe not actually, he might still go for Rexar. Either way, you want to leave yourself resilient
your
to
minions
Rexar.
just blow up is not a good thing, so
yeah.
just saved himself 6 damage there. Now Plague is looking like tempting, but you've got to deal with this annoying Houndmaster.
And you've got to be afraid of mind control tech. This is always a problem of going for Plague with the Arcane Tyrant as well, because he could just leave himself open to having one of these Scarabs stolen away. He's choosing here not to play around it because he's realizing he's not in the best spot here. He doesn't have a UI to draw back up. He hasn't gained that much mana over the course of this game. But we are going to see Tyler, with the punish available in the mind control tech, going to be completely dominating this board again.
Yeah, now there's so many things he can do. The removal in this deck is sneaky good because of Spider Bomb. The way it interacts with it. I think the deck wasn't that great until Spider Bomb was added, which took surprisingly long, like 2 weeks or something. And then suddenly it became top tier because of the Spider Bombs, which is obvious now we look at it. And Saiyan has got his own ways to fight back here with Swipe and Mind Control tech, but hanging on a little bit. Oh, UI tends to change games.
There's the UI that he was hoping to get, but he doesn't hit the Houndmaster Shore. Would have changed this game so drastically for him. Now he's looking at having to go Swipe and Moonfire on the Houndmaster Shore. Feels so awful.
It looks that way, but you give yourself so little to do later on.
Yeah.
He's trying to work out if there's anything else he can do.
Because he wants to save this Moonfire for lethal capabilities.
Yeah.
Next turn, he can go, if he's not under too much pressure, Alexstrasza to the face, and then Malagos Moonfire, UI to face. He has some very strong offensive capabilities.
But this is where he is so good. I think he has a very good feel in all matchups for how he gets it done should he have to use his important cards.
Yeah.
And he feels that that was so important, he's just got to find yet another way to get this done. It does empty his hands out for UI a little bit. I know that's not why he's doing it, but it's a side effect that isn't a negative, at least.
Okay options available there for Tyler. Yeah, we could have seen a Valbrute Skitterer as an option to, like, I don't know, deal with Alexstrasza or Malagos, but when he's got the Hunter's Mark in hand, I like making the biggest thing he can because, again, Tyler realizes if he's winning this game, he needs to be playing aggressive and shutting out some of Justsaiyan's options. If he gives him the liberty to make the most powerful Druid play possible every turn, he will realize why Druid is pretty much the #1 class in Hearthstone.
Yeah, and he is not giving those opportunities so far. That's a timely candle shot here for Tyler. He wants to Hunter's Mark and continue that pressure. Can avoid the Alex.
Plated Beetle is very nice as well for Tyler. Just that little bit of extra armor to keep pushing him up out of range of damage with the Malagos.
And the damage is adding up here. He's seen an MC Tech, he's seen a Plague, so he's comfortable doing this way.
Always threatening the potential of King Crush or Katharina at any point here for Tyler, because either one is guaranteed to get him a King Crush. Obviously, King Crush is guaranteed to get you a King Crush.
King Crush is guaranteed to get, but I know what you mean.
Thankfully for Justsaiyan, though, he has just enough health to be making these plays without dying just straight away to a King Crush.
There's
with
Katharina.
Katharina off the top, that's now 7, 8, 9. Is that 1 damage off lethal?
Yeah, I believe it is. I heard it a minute ago. Yeah, I believe it is.
18 health.
Yeah, it's 9. It's 18.
Off. Oh my god.
So 1 off. And there's a lot going on here for Saiyan to have to do. He can gain armor, but he's got to deal with the board at the same time.
Even now, though, I don't want to call Justsaiyan out of this game.
Yeah, he's got Naturalize in hand. He's got Branching Path, so he can gain armor. He can kill things. He's not.
It's looking bad.
I mean, it's looking really bad. But he has the fluke. Like his recovery won't take long at all. Should he survive? Malagos fluke and kill you happens pretty fast.
Plague as well is a lovely draw. Just praying that the Mossy Horror isn't there, because now I'm looking at something like Plague and Naturalize. It brings your opponent closer to that Mossy Horror if they were to be able to have it. So maybe you save it for Plague into Branching Paths for plus attack on the next turn, but what does that leave you able to do?
A tangled web.
He just needs to clear this up. If he can somehow remove Katharina and King Crush over the next 2 or 3 turns, he just wins with the stuff he's got left over, but he wants to do it without using Swipe.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of chances. And again, it's just that case of working out what Tyler might and might not have, playing the numbers.
Web. Death is eternal.
He's just going with the tank up above all else strategy here.
Yeah.
And I think he realizes if he goes for Spreading Plague, it's just so likely to give his opponent the Mossy Horror because of all the cards he's drawing in.
Yeah, Tyler's just been gathering cards for some time. He only has 10 cards left, so he's 2 in 3 to have it if it's completely random.
I just don't know if Saiyan's going to have the time. He can't afford to play Malagos anytime soon because Tyler is just piling on so much relentless pressure, and he's healing up all the while, taking all the cards that gain him life and armor with the Beetle as well. It's just such an onslaught.
Protecting his life drinker there by killing off the 5-2 to keep slightly more damage on board.
Doesn't even have the option for Plague into Branching Paths now because of Justsaiyan's last turn.
Saiyan. He's hunting for cards. That's usually a bad sign.
Hoping for anything here. A Naturalize to be able to deal with this Katharina.
Gets a Lich King, which might stodge things up next turn, but even if you get in a position where you can Malygos and maybe Moonfire a minion on a slightly smaller board than this, he might get into an okay spot to set up Floop Swipe, but he just can't get there.
Looks like it was some slight mispositioning as
Yeah.
well from Tyler with the Zombie Beast in the Direwolf Alpha. I don't think it will matter because he's got the magnetized effect here, which helps out a little bit
If
as well.
the 4 attack minions had been next to each other, that would have made things nice and trivial for him here.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Still pushing quite a lot of damage.
Yeah.
through to the base. Well, I suppose the poisonous kills it off anyway, right? So.
Yeah, fair. Lose track of the zombies sometimes. But Tyler, surely now with both plagues gone, has found a way to set up everything.
Even with the Naturalize, Justsaiyan throws it down, and he is going to be eliminated from another top 16 at his tour stop. Tyler advancing through to the round of 8.
Fantastic matchup there, and Saiyan yet again just proving